All right. After much interest, we finally got the burning question answered. There was some speculation over the weekend. There was some speculation Sunday night, but we needed to have visual proof of it. And we finally got the question answered that everybody's been asking about. Not who was the original Grande Americano before he unmasked. It's kind of funny. I watched that match back today after Raw went off the air because they streamed it on Netflix. By the way, I hate that they have to put it in black and white, even on Netflix. That's ridiculous. But I laughed when I watched it the second time because it didn't hit me originally. When Rey Mysterio said, "We're going to finally find out who the original Grande Americano is," I'm like, oh my goodness. But we got the burning question answered. Who made the pasta? Not only who made the pasta, but who spent between $11,000 and $13,000 for the experience. Now, some of you out there may know who Green Shirt Guy is. I don't know who that guy is. I don't know if he's married. I don't know if he likes his M&Ms with peanut or plain, or maybe he likes them both. But all I know is that guy's got some crazy ass money to burn, because it's not just spending between $11,000 and $13,000 for the experience, depending on where you sat in the arena, but it's also flying to Italy, staying in Italy, spending money on food and souvenir and everything else going on. That guy probably dropped a good $20,000 for a weekend. And the thing is, God bless someone who can spend that kind of money for being a fan. But I kind of laugh at it because I think of Vladimir. Everyone knows Vladimir's. I met him many, many, many years ago, well before he was considered like super fan. Back then, people would call him and some others weird, because they would stand by Madison Square Garden along the entranceway in the side. Vinny G, who a lot of you know, and I will reveal photos. Maybe this Sunday, if I remember, I will show you all pictures of Vinny G. He was a hotline host at the time, and he was a friend of mine also. Weird guy, but a friend. And he would dress up as Michael Jackson. And Vince McMahon stopped and took pictures with him. John Cena, Stephanie McMahon. And he would send me these pictures. And I'm looking in amazement. I'm like, holy shit, they're all stopping to take pictures with him. And he's got the whole Michael Jackson with the glove and the glitter thing and lipstick and white face and all that. And, it was just weird. But most of those fans at the time were considered, bizarre. Innocent, harmless, but bizarre. As later on, they would be called super fans. Green Shirt Guy, I don't know if he'll ever be in that position like Vladimir and others. And especially when you realize that Vladimir did not pay all that much to go to WWE events. Vinny G would pay next to nothing. These guys got so much, enjoyment and exposure, and fucking for Vladimir, documentary. And over the course of a lifetime, he probably didn't spend what this guy spent just for Italy. But just to move on, we're trying to fill a couple of minutes here because, after last night's show that we did, which was amazing, I thank everybody who joined me. Raw happened at 2:00 this afternoon. So, most people out there already did their recaps and reviews. Some people out there decided to do it around the same time as me. I will tell you right up front that next Monday, I will be doing Raw as soon as Raw goes off the air. I'm going to do it because it'll keep my Monday night free. Now, next Monday, Raw will be in Paris, and it airs at 2 p.m. Eastern. So just mark that down. I expect to go live around 4:20-ish, 4:30 next Monday afternoon. But So getting back to the question, who made the pasta? And now since we have photo proof of it, I could share it with all of you. We actually had two people who made the pasta, and it was none other than Maxine Dupree. I gotta know if she did that fucking that lupini bean, or she did that fake shirataki noodles or whatever that crap is. I don't know if she actually made that pasta, because she don't eat regular pasta. All right, she's done TikTok videos of her recipes, and they look pretty damn good. I'm not going to besmirch her for her cooking. But Ethan Page also cooked the pasta. And if anybody goes back a bunch of years when Ethan Page was not discovered yet to be a future superstar, Ethan Page was a chunky monkey. You go back and you'll see Ethan Page enjoyed lots of plates of pasta. So they actually made the pasta. Now, the other people that you see in this picture, and for everybody in audio only, you really don't need to go out of your way to see this picture, but, I appreciate like the What Cultures and everybody else that just go on the school's website, translate it to English, and they claim they got a scoop as far as who was there and who did what. But, for those that are interested, when you look at this picture, you might think that the very heavy set person was probably one of the persons that paid. It's just that he was so fat that they couldn't give him an apron big enough for him to wear, because anybody who did pay got their own custom Clash in Italy apron to take home. And that's why you see one person on the left. And you might say to yourself, wait a minute, that guy paid? He looks awfully familiar. That's John Cone. That is Talent Relations. He was there also. Apparently only 5 or 6 people paid for this. And one of them was Green Shirt Guy. But the heavy set guy that you see and the female standing right next to Maxine Dupree are the two people that actually run the school. Yes, this was a pasta school. And if you go and translate that to English, I think it's called the food gym or something like that. But they normally charge about $100 for 3 hours of cooking school. And they will teach you how to make pasta, how to do a bunch of other things. They normally charge $100 for 3 hours of school. WWE charged $11,500 to $13,500. Yes, it came with a ticket. Yes, you could take a picture at the ring. Yes, you could have a glass of wine. But still, you figure, okay, put the cooking shit aside. What's the front row ticket cost? $4,000 for Italy? $5,000 for Italy? $6,000 if you want to be generous. You still paid between $5,000 and $7,000 to hang out with Maxine Dupree and Ethan Page with a couple of chefs cooking pasta. The food gym. Yes, that is it. So, so there you go. There you go. And John Cone was there. Because John Cone is Italiano. He likes his pasta. I don't think he cooked. But yes, you got also a certificate. The certificate is from the school, by the way. So I don't know what that actually does. But yeah, so we finally figured it out. Originally it was supposed to be Liv Morgan. Then we heard Maxine Dupree. And then late people were saying that it was Giulia. And then it went back to Maxine Dupree. Nothing was ever said about Ethan Page. But look, I hope whoever went had a good time. You will never catch me spending that kind of... I wouldn't spend that kind of money on pussy. To just say it bluntly. I'm going to spend that kind of money to hang out with 2 WWE stars, cooking pasta. If you want to come to my house and barbecue, you want to hang out in my yard and have a barbecue and cook for my family and my neighbors and everything, yeah, maybe I would spend a couple of G's on that, but not for that. Not for that, man. And there's some people in the chat room that agree with what I just said. So, Monday Night Raw today. This was very upsetting for me. All right. I don't have any issue, and we'll recap Raw in a moment. There's not a whole lot to get into. Oh, I do want to say one other thing before we get into anything else. Yesterday, when we were going through the brackets for Night of Champions, for the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring and Night of Champions, when we saw the match that involves Finn Balor, Raw wrestlers had a red bar next to their name. Finn Balor's had a blue bar next to his name. And we had the conversation yesterday, and we speculated, is Finn Balor being moved to SmackDown? And we found out today during Raw on a commercial break, Byron Saxton revealed to Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough that Finn Balor has in fact been moved to SmackDown. Now, my guess is they'll do a tit for tat. If Jacob Fatu remains on Raw, you got to put somebody on SmackDown. Gunther is now on SmackDown. Who else is going to come to Raw? What the hell is going to happen with CM Punk? But Finn Balor is now moved to SmackDown. And yes, I will absolutely miss Finn Balor on Monday Night Raw. It kind of sucks that his matches with Jade and McDonough are already over and done with because they've been off the hook. But I also think about the SmackDown roster. You know, no disrespect to the fans that are focusing on, oh, we get to see Randy Orton and Finn. What? Like, I want to see Ilya versus Finn Balor. If Gunther remains on, I want to see Gunther versus Finn Balor. I want to see Finn Balor and Cody Rhodes. Carmelo Hayes and Finn Balor. There is quite a few names on SmackDown that I think could have some tremendous matches with Finn Balor. So, although I will miss him in the Judgment Day and a lot of his comedy, see, that's the thing I'm probably going to miss the most. And yes, wrestling is about what they do in the ring also, but, you know, I think we kind of took for granted how charismatic and how funny Finn Balor was in the Judgment Day. You know, if you remember the unrest with Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez and Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor would have, and he'd be laughing in the background. You'd have Judgment Day members feuding with each other or just getting loud at each other. And he's got this giant smile on his face like, ooh, like kind of like it's kind of like these live streams on YouTube. I don't know if you ever see these. For some reason, my wife loves them. You get these ghetto women, all different shapes and sizes and colors. I don't want to stereotype any one person, but you get these ghetto women. And what they do is, hi, welcome to my channel. I'm so-and-so. And then what they do for the next hour is they play clips from other ghetto women's YouTube channels. And they're talking about relationships. They're talking about this. They're talking about their fingernails. They're talking about shopping. And they're making fun of other ghetto women. So you have a live stream making fun of another person's live stream. And I say to myself, I can only imagine the other ghetto woman out there who's making fun of this ghetto woman, who's making fun of this ghetto woman. And for some reason, people sit there. You get hundreds of people. There's one woman, I've talked about this before, that my wife watches, and she has on a table a stack of money. And you would think, I don't know, wow, she must be a top executive, or, maybe she's looking for a sugar daddy, or, maybe it's one of those, I don't want to say the term, but, it would piss off some people, but it begins with the letter J. But you realize that the stack of money like this are ones, fives, and tens. And she just sits there and she tells everybody how she's going to pay her bills this week. Now we have to put $111 aside for food. And she's literally, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, this fucking bitch has 700 people live watching this. And she's like, we have $45 left over. Fam, what should we do with it? Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit. I kind of want to die and be reborn as a ghetto bitch from fucking Texas or something. They make crazy money. So my point is, watching Finn Balor, just watching other people have meltdowns was so entertaining for me. And yes, Finn Balor's not being paid millions to sit there and put funny faces on his face. But I'm going to miss that aspect of Finn Balor. I'm really going to miss that because that is going to be absent for the most part. You look at the people on SmackDown, the equality matches, absolutely. Hopefully a championship sooner than later, absolutely. but I'm going to miss that aspect of it. And that's kind of what made it. You saw it today with Judgment Day. They had literally like a 45-second segment right at the end of the show because Roxanne Perez was pouting because she lost her Queen of the Ring qualifier, the tournament match. And it was basically like, oh, don't pout. That's not what Judgment Day is all about. Yes, I just rhymed. I'm a poet in case you didn't know it. And Liv Morgan is touting she's going to win. And WWE at the beginning of the show did confirm what we speculated yesterday. The reason why Liv Morgan's in this tournament is because she wants all the gold. She wants all the gold, which is a telltale sign she won't win. But they wanted to put her as a high-profile name in this match. Now the question is Stephanie Vicaire show up and fuck it up? And, it would be interesting because the Maxine Dupree factor today as well. But, so, just to get back to Raw, now with Balor on SmackDown, I'm very, very mad about something. And I'm not one that, is known for shitting on everything. Pissing in the wind, complaining. Like when I do my shows, even going back to 1997, I make a list of topics. I take notes. I highlight things that catch my eye, that I find interesting, that you may find interesting as well. I'm not going to sit here and tell you reverse Huracan Rana into a tope suicida followed by a suplex for a 2 count. Gets up, runs against the ropes, misses a drop kick. No, you want play-by-play like that, go fucking watch the match. I will tell you, is it good or is it sucked? Or I'll tell you things about it that kind of highlighted it for me. That's what I do. But I am not going to sugarcoat something that annoys me. And that is the Bloodline Infighting that we are about to get for the summer. Now, if you saw the thumbnail for this episode, you might as well put Jacob Fatu on a fucking forklift. All right. The spirit of Judy Bagwell, the smell of her stench is still on that forklift. You might as well put Jacob Fatu on that goddamn forklift because it sure as damn well looks like we're going to have Roman Reigns and the Usos feuding with Solo Sikoa, Tala Tonga, who looks like, I don't know, the great Khali fucked the 1, 2, 3 kid, Sean Waltman, and gave birth to him. You look at him straight ahead, to me, he looks like a giant Sean Waltman, some Samoan, whatever. You got Tama Tonga, and Solo Sikoa going to be feuding with Roman Reigns and the Usos, and Jacob Fatu is going to be torn. Does he continue to acknowledge my tribal chief? Or I love you, Solo? That's where this is going. And what gets me mad is this. Right? And I brought this up yesterday, but we have the audio clip, and I'm going to share it with you. It's only 60 seconds, but it's a very powerful 60 seconds. And I'm going to go in a place that a lot of people don't like to go. And it's to criticize Roman Reigns. Now, I will make a disclaimer. This is not Roman Reigns' fault. This is WWE Creative's fault. And the thing is, WWE Creative is the one that goes along with this. WWE Creative is the one who negotiates this. If you have followed me and my shows for the last 6 weeks, what was my biggest concern about Roman Reigns returning and working through the summer? I had one concern and one concern only. And that is he only going to be fighting family? Like, when he cut that promo on ESPN, I gave you guys 2 years and you couldn't do nothing with it. So now I got to come back and I got to save it. All right. Outside of CM Punk, like, is his return going to be just infighting? Am I going to see Oba Femi? I don't even know if I really want to see Seth Rollins the more I think about it. Because we've been there, done that. Sure, whatever. If Seth Rollins is going to dethrone him, but it's kind of like, come on, man. We had people, I think, forget. You had fucking CM Punk and Roman Reigns this year, which was a spectacular match. But a year ago, we had CM Punk and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania with Seth Rollins. So you had Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns interacting in a match. The year before, you had Rock in play, Seth Rollins involved. This is not like, this is a match. This is not like Shawn Michaels and The Rock. Like for 15 years, people have been fantasizing these two guys one-on-one and this and that, and we're finally going to get it. Or Kurt Angle and Bret Hart or something. We've seen it. Time to move on. And my concern all along is, all right, Roman Reigns is back for the summer. Are you going to help elevate people along the way? Are we going to get matches that we didn't think we would see? Not saying to copy John Cena, but the turning point of John Cena's career as far as popularity with the fans will always be, and we've said it since day one, a lot of you said it as well, is the United States Challenge. When he did the United States Challenge, and you had Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, the infamous night he stepped on the championship, and others, his feud with AJ Styles. You started to see John Cena playing with people that you never thought you would see him play with. And that turned the corner. Are we going to see Roman Reigns playing with people that we want to see play? And my concern all along is we're going to get fucking Bloodline 3.0. We're going to get more Bloodline. This is bad because it shows you WWE is not financially in any trouble at all. They're still selling out. They're still creating revenue. They're going to areas where they don't normally go. You go to Italy. Italian fans have not been able to see WWE up close and personal like that. Of course, you're going to sell 10,000 seats. They're going to be in Europe for the most part for the next month. They're going to be going to areas that they know that they could draw well. So if you keep going to areas that are not your norm and you're drawing well, sure, you could extend this for another year. They don't have to worry about tickets. I've said this 1,000 times. You're not going to get the bullshit you get every year with WrestleMania. It's the annual tradition. And I'm not talking about SummerSlam and Survivor Series and Thanksgiving. The annual tradition is you get 3 months before WrestleMania. Tickets, okay, they're going well, they're not going so well, they're going this, these are the prices. The prices are insane, they're way too much money, blah, 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 blah. And then you get 2 months and then suddenly, oh, look, 20% off. Oh, look, WWE cut the ticket prices. Oh, look, they're finally caving in and blah, 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 blah. Every year that they do this. This year, we had so many matarazzas out there trying to say to you, oh, WWE realizes they're overcharging people, they're caving in. And it said, no, they're not. It's kind of like Amazon. You go on Amazon and you'll look for a product and you'll see a big red slash in it. And you're like, ooh, 50% off. And then you look at it closer like, wait a minute, $19.99 is the normal price. But they want you to think like we were selling it for $39.99. And we're going to give it to you for 50% off. So we're actually putting it on sale. But when you realize that everybody else sells it for $19.99, you're not really getting a sale. So what WWE does is they put the prices after the record WrestleMania revenue last year. They put the ticket prices outrageous to see how many motherfuckers will spend that money. And then once they hit that plateau and they realize, okay, we pushed it as long as we can. Now we got to get the people that are a little bit more self-conscious, not the green shirt guys and girls. And then what do? They do little deals. Oh, we'll give you this. You use this promo code, blah, 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 blah. And then you get those people. And then you get about a month away and you start realizing, okay, this is where we're doing well. This is where we're not doing so well. So let's do deals. You could hang out with Danhausen. You could get on Cody's bus. You could go here. We could do this. You could go to WWE World. You could handshake this person. And with a ticket, you get this, you get those people. And it's the cycle. Every year they do this shit. But when you now look at the overall aspect of WWE, you take away the Bloodline, you take away CM Punk, even in AAA, you take away El Grande Americano. You take away Cody Rhodes. What do you have? Let that sink in for a minute. If Ludwig Kaiser tears his ACL today, walking down the stairs at the courthouse, what happens to AAA? Who's next in line to be that larger-than-life, unbelievable superstar? that is going to just, who is it? They betting everything on Kaiser, and it's working. But that is so risky to put that much investment on one person. You look at SmackDown. SmackDown, Cody Rhodes is the number one guy. Cody Rhodes is Teflon. Cody Rhodes, they're not turning heel anytime soon. But you go outside of Cody Rhodes when you feel like, okay, Gunther, mix it up a little bit, create a little controversy, going into the summer, blah, 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 blah. Cody, at this time, maybe is better chasing a title. What do? You do the stupid finish at Clash in Italy. So now you realize when it comes to Monday Night Raw, it's the Bloodline and everything else. LA Knight is turned into a joke. And I'm sorry if some of you out there disagree, if you don't look at it closely, but this is the second week in a row, LA Knight looked like an absolute fucking fool. And I am a huge fan of LA Knight. Even on the History Show, we went out of our way to play that speech when they gave the keys to the city for his town. And he donated like $20,000 to his childhood hometown for volunteers and firemen, stuff like that. The guy's an awesome guy. I absolutely love LA Knight. Today, he came off like a retard. What was the thing? Adam Pearce, he's talking and he's doing this like, look, LA Knight, I don't want, it's not that I want the Bloodline. What's that? Fucking Adam Pearce. And if you look closely, LA Knight got too early with his moment. He's looking at Adam Pearce's hands. And Adam Pearce is just talking, doing his normal thing. And because Adam Pearce has one finger like, oh, that's terrible. That's embarrassing. That's disgusting. And LA Knight walks off. He looked like an absolute moron today. Do you realize how many months have gone by and how it's last year that LA Knights is warning Jimmy, warning Jay, you're a wannabe Roman. This is of like 7 months, 8 months of this stuff. They have decided that Raw is Bloodline. Femi is a phenomenon. But they are not going to suddenly blow their load with Femi, put the world championship on him, and put him skyrocket at the top. Why would you do that? They have Bloodline right now. Bloodline is a success. You go what you're comfortable with. You go with what you know works. And Roman Reigns, after Clash in Italy, said this. I want you to hear it closely. It's about 60 seconds long. And when you listen to it, and you think about the storyline and everything going on, you understand Roman Reigns is talking completely out of his ass. This is 100% Roman Reigns talking out of his ass.
Roman, after surviving tribal combat and defeating Jacob Fatu, what does this mean for you and what is next?
I don't think it really matters what it means for me. What's it mean for everybody else, huh? I can hear the chattering. LA Knight, Royce Keys, and this goes for any of you chumps back there. You want to run your mouth about the tribal chief? You want to run your mouth about my family? You terrified about this bloodline, ain't you? You already see what's happening behind me. I've been a general. I've been had an army. I'm trying to do it the right way. I'm trying to shine a light on my legacy in a positive manner. But y'all are forcing my hand. Keep on trying me. I'll run it all forever.
Do you think that actually leads to something? You think Roman is going to fight Royce Keys? Yeah, he might have a match with LA Knight. Think LA Knight's going to beat him? I mean, this is, with all due respect, again, it's not Roman Reigns' fault, and I've become a fan. But his return, in my honest opinion, Roman, we want you to return. We renegotiate your deal. We're going to pay you a shitload more money, and we'll let you fight, for the most part, with your family. Roman came back to help elevate Jacob. More money for himself, more money for his family, better stature. Jacob Fatu is benefiting from this. There is no doubt about it. Jacob Fatu is benefiting. But you were starting to realize that Roman Reigns' entire return was not to save WWE. Not, I gave you guys 2 years to get this right, and you did nothing, so now I got to come back and save it. You start reading between the lines. Roman Reigns' entire return is so he could play with his family. That World Heavyweight Championship is going to be held hostage. Motherfucker shows up at the arena, doesn't even show up proudly holding the belt. He's got to get some fucking Pollock to show up in the picture and hand it to him. Oh, thank you for holding my title. You know, when I first saw that, I thought, oh, maybe Jacob Fatu stole it the week before and they recovered it. And like, oh, look, Roman, look what we got here. You know, it's just, I'm very, very annoyed because I know they're not going to speed up over Femi. There's no reason to make Raw is Oba right now because the bloodline is still in play. And then when I saw at Clash in Italy, Tala, Tama, and Solo sitting front row, I'm like, holy shit. Now it's going to be about the MFTs and the bloodline again, and Jacob Fatu is going to be torn. Do I respect and acknowledge my tribal chief or keep doing it? Or do I love you Solo? And I'm not looking forward to this. That World Heavyweight Championship, I get it. During the pandemic, I get it. It became history. It was historic what Roman Reigns did. But now it's like, you know, you look at Triple H, even with Cody Rhodes. You know, how many times have we feel like WWE either rinses and repeats or just delays and delays and delays and delays? Let's see what other expensive town that we could make them think we're going to have a major landscape change. Motherfucker even said that yesterday before Clash in Italy. I don't really have much of a problem with this, but somebody super chatted something that I totally forgot about yesterday that I'm going to have a fun time with in a moment. But Triple H said if Jacob Fatu beats Roman, it changes the landscape of the WWE. How many times has Triple H said the landscape of the WWE is going to change? When do you start realizing that Triple H is a corporate guy, always was, is in sync with TKO, is in sync with Nick Khan, him, Stephanie, Undertaker, everybody else that we talk about are all on the same team. This is not, he's being held back. His ideas are being buried. He's being written off. He's being treated like a clown. When do people start acknowledging? We acknowledge the tribal chief. When do we acknowledge that Triple H is just a corporate shill? And honestly, why would TKO want someone in that position who wasn't? And you can't say to me, well, he's a wrestling guy. And if you don't have Triple H there, who else could you have? You can't just use that as an answer. So I'm very, very, very annoyed right now because it looks like we're going to go into summer and they're going to eat weeks. Now, remember, Roman Reigns is going to be on Raw for at least the next 3 weeks. For at least the next 3 weeks. So what is going to happen the next 3 weeks? You know, something with MFTs next week, a little bit more interaction with Jacob. Maybe the MFTs surround Jacob Fatu, and Jacob Fatu is left thinking, like, which side am I on? And then this is going to be dragged out for another 2-3 weeks afterwards. And we're going to go into the month of July, and we're going to look back on it and be like, holy shit, his whole return is to play with family. That's all it is. And then at the very end, maybe we'll get Roman versus Seth, or Roman versus Oba, or Roman. It'll be 5% of his entire return. And I got to be honest with you, it really just brings me down that you don't feel growth. I don't wish injury on anyone, but I say to myself, what the fuck would be happening right now if Roman Reigns did not return, or maybe he got injured? Oh, I get it. Every week it would be Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker, Seth Rollins and Austin Theory, Montez Ford and Seth Rollins with Austin Theory and Bron Breakker, LA Knight and Jimmy Uso, LA Knight and Bron Breakker, LA Knight and Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker and Austin Theory. And we would have months and months and months of that same shit over and over and over again. This roster is so deep, but yet so shallow. Because you take away, honestly, it's like a Jenga. Right now, WWE is like Jenga, and all of the important parts are all at the bottom, at the foundation. And it's okay to take a piece off of here. It's okay to take a piece off of here. It's okay to take a piece off of here. But when every piece that you're depending on is all at the same line, you pull this one out, you pull this one out, you pull this one out, and you have a disaster. I see people, and it's interesting, over the last 2 weeks, I see people, the level of complaining about Liv Morgan. What do they do with Liv Morgan? We've already explained it, but after WrestleMania, it was okay. Some people, okay, you were the focal point of WrestleMania. Take a step back for now. We want to help a few other people. Let's put all the focus on Sal Ruka, get her to that next level. Now Liv Morgan will pick up where she left off. Stephanie McCare, take time off. CM Punk, take time off. LA Knight, take time off. And when you return, we still don't know what the fuck to do. LA Knight, he's got to be one that took the pay cut. He has to. Because when you look at the usage of LA Knight for the last 7 months, this is like, it's kind of like the opposite side of Danhausen. Danhausen's there to put smiles on people's faces, to make them laugh and feel good, brighten up the children, just have a little catchphrase, sell merch, and that's his role. His role is not to put on great matches. His role is not to put on, he will win the championship at some point, obviously, but LA Knight is there because the guy could work, the guy is charismatic, but there you always have over the years those people who talk good, wrestle good, and have an awesome look, but you realize that they're always going to be a B-plus player. And sure, LA Knight could become world heavyweight champion before he retires. Sure, LA Knight could become heavyweight champion if someone else gets injured or if 2 people get injured. But there are people out there that will always be looked at as a B-plus player. And unfortunately, there'll be other people out there who always will be looked as a C-plus player. And when they do elevate their game, whether through social media or just, cutting promos or just interacting with fans and just being who they are, and organically start to elevate, you realize that WWE, if they look in their eyes that, nah, you're just a C-plus player to us, you could go on, you could turn your head upside down. You could hold your breath until you're purple. And WWE's not going to change their mind. That's why over recent years, when people say to me, oh, I'd love to see so-and-so go to WWE. I would love to see so-and-so get promoted from NXT to the main roster. I would love to see this. And then I say, well, look at how many people they would have to leapfrog. To me, one of the ones that I always reflect on is Indy Hartwell. I remember hashtag give Indy a chance. And Indy Hartwell at some points was my favorite woman on NXT. I have the old episodes to back it up. And then when there was the trending, give Indy a chance, I said, I don't want that. And people are like, why? She's your favorite NXT. Why wouldn't you not see her go to the main roster? I said, and do what? Double date with Dexter Lumis and Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae? She's going to go to the main roster and do what? And you saw it. She came to the main roster. For a couple of weeks, they gave this perception that she was going to get pushed, and my YouTube just crashed. That's okay. I don't think it interrupts the stream. But she came up. They tried to do some stuff with Candice LeRae, and then the storyline became Candice is a heel, Indy's not, Indy doesn't want to go along with it, and then suddenly she caves and conforms, and then you realize there was nothing for her to do, and ultimately she got released. There are some people out there that I don't care what the fuck happens, unless something insanely amazing happens that just changes revenue and attention, that you just force WWE, not just simply hey, look, that guy is getting a lot of attention online. Maybe we should elevate that person. There's always somebody that could fit that spot. You ask yourself, why are they bringing back Baron Corbin? How's about improving some of the people there? Look at Montez Ford now and the Street Profits. The Street Profits came back how many weeks ago? 5 weeks ago? And it was, it's nothing against division. We just want gold. Seth, we don't need your help. It's not about division. We want gold. And everything was, we want gold. And we thought, okay, they might be the ones that dethrone the Vision. And not only did that not happen, but now they're doing a storyline where Angelo Dawkins is injured. And Montez Ford is just coming out to ringside. And suddenly he's buddy-buddy with Seth Rollins, saving the life of Seth Rollins today. And you realize, holy shit, next week is now going to be 6 weeks that they're back. And not only are they not going for the gold, but you have one half of the team now injured, and you're going to go 2-3 months, and you're going to say, what have they done for 3 months? I was looking at Giulia today in that Raw match, and we'll recap Raw in a second. And Giulia had this presence about her when she first came in. And I get it. When she first came in, her and Stephanie Vicaire were right like this, neck and neck. And then suddenly, Stephanie Vicaire, it just took off. And the fans, the internet, everybody was just consumed with Stephanie Vicaire. And I think one of the things that helped Stephanie Vicaire was she was learning English. And Giulia, with all due respect, wasn't picking up as much. And that communication issue was a bigger thing. And then Stephanie Vicaire, obviously leapfrogged and became the NXT Women's Champion. And she just had this aura about her. She had a moveset. You had Booker T, and everybody's watching it. And what does Giulia have? Nice gear. She wrestles great, but so does everybody else. So you see that WWE got Giulia and did absolutely nothing with her. That's why I always hated the pairing with Kiana James. It's like, okay, we don't have confidence to put all that focus on Giulia on her own. We have to put an assistant with her. The one who actually talks English, the one who could take a little bit of an ass kicking to be the catalyst, the chicken shit, a little bit like that. And I think Kiana James is great. I thought her going to Raw originally was tremendous. She got injured. But when you actually start examining the WWE roster closely, there's about 6 to 8 people that you take away half of them and you have a serious, serious problem. Now we're going to go into the summertime with Roman Reigns back on a regular basis. The ratings are the same, if not lower, than they were before he came back, before the WrestleMania push. And you realize that championship is once again hijacked. And in the process, he's fighting Jacob Fatu. Now there's going to be interaction with the MFTs. Tease, Royce Keys, and LA Knight, and anybody else in the back that want to talk shit about the bloodline. And the next thing you know, a month goes by, 2 months goes by, 3 months goes by, 4 months goes by, and you're like, oh my God, what the fuck have we actually seen? The live fans in attendance will have a great time. They paid the money. They're going to have a great time. They're not going to sit there and go, oh my God, this shit again with the, no, everybody's going to put their finger up. Everybody's going to serenade OTC. Now they're going to serenade Jacob Fatu. Ole, 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 ole. Fatu, Fatu. That will be picked up, courtesy of Italy today. The live fans will have a ball. And WWE will keep doing that because if the live fans in attendance are having a great time, you at home should also see Jey Uso. Jey Uso, it was amazing. Live in the building. Everybody's doing yeet, yeet, yeet. They're doing everything. Bring it back. He's doing this whole thing. And IWC, they were livid. And it wasn't just a few annoying voices, because Jey Uso, almost every interview and every promo that he would say outside of the WWE, he'd be like, Oos, Oos, come to the shows, Oos. I guarantee you, Oos. If you go Oos, You'll feel differently about it. Oos, give it a chance. Oos, the vibe. Even CM Punk. CM Punk was doing interviews, and CM Punk always had to go out of his way and say, to all those people out there that are disrespecting my friend Jay, you don't know what it feels like in this fucking arena, and the arenas tell a different story, and just people are complaining simply to complain. So this is why Danhausen is there. That's why Enzo is being brought back. They want a bunch of Jey Usos in the company. They want to have people that will just brighten up the live audience. Because me sitting at home, my money's going to Netflix. It's not going to WWE's pocket. They already got the money. So how do you get more money? Well, you have to get the attendance. You have to get the merchandise sales. You have to get the ticket sales. So that's why some of these people are there. Just to give you a little bit more of an enjoyable experience. Does the WWE really need Enzo? No. Does the WWE really need certain individuals? No. But, just add a couple of additional things, and even like Alpha Academy. For a while, Alpha Academy had Tozawa fucking dancing in place like a moron. You had Otis, with his shtick. And then they're like, we really don't need that no more. We got this person, we got this person, we got this person. So I'm really concerned what we have right now, especially after Raw today. I get it. Roman Reigns is the top dog, the big dog, the tribal chief, the world heavyweight champion. But this whole thing, like cousin, acknowledge me. Cousin, acknowledge me. It almost comes off heelish. It almost comes off heelish. Like, you must acknowledge me as your tribal chief. What are we, 6? Are we playing house? You're going to be doctor, and I'm going to be nurse. You're going to acknowledge me. I'm going to be tribal chief, and you have to acknowledge me. No, you have to acknowledge me. Next week, you could be tribal chief. These are grown individuals doing this, all right? And Jacob Fatu standing there, like impatient and annoyed and this and that. It's kind of like, yes, his character is over. Yes, he struggles. Yes, he's taken L's his whole life, like he said at the opening of Raw. But at the same time, though, this whole story is going to be Solo's going to approach him. And Solo's going to be like, you're disappointed. You look at you. Look at what you're doing. And he's going to say a few things that's going to make Jacob Fatu think. And you're going to have Jimmy in his face. Maybe even Jay with a little bit of sarcasm. And then, Jacob is going to be brought back in check. But he'll still have, put it this way, Jacob will look at Jimmy or Roman or, I don't know about Jay, and he's like, you're right. Like he'll straighten himself out. And then as they walk off, the camera will stay on Jacob for a few extra seconds. And Jacob will just have that look like, and then you'll be like, oh, Jacob is thinking about it. Ooh, he's kind of torn in the middle. And that's why we have the fucking, put Jacob Fatu on a forklift. Not even on a pole. Put him on a forklift, Judy Bagwell style. This is what we have to look forward to. The fucking MFTs. You would have thought once they got rid of 2, like Talatunga, I don't wish no ill will on him, but you would think someone 8 feet tall like that has got to have like very, very weak quads or something like that. Like somebody can't just like drop a little banana peel on the floor or something, just something, anything, like maybe just put a little bit of wax under his shoes. I just, I don't wish no ill will on him, but it's just goofy, man. It's goofy. Tama Tonga by now should have broken out. And Tama Tonga is basically, look at everything they did and look where we are now. So very concerned, very concerned. Someone, you know what? I will acknowledge someone out there because we've seen, here's a few things. Then we'll recap Raw and we'll call it a night. I don't want to overstay because, Raw happened 6 hours ago. And we have a loaded week ahead, but let me do a few acknowledgments here. AS7607, it's up. She says, seriously, Triple H sounds like a used car salesman. He does. He sounds like a corporate guy. I wouldn't expect anything less, but you would think that he would say it in a different way. So it wouldn't sound, it sounds a lot like old Dixie Carter, and it sounds sometimes like Tony Khan. All right, Tony Khan would repeat the same things over and over and over again. I truly think this week's Dynamite is the best one we've done so far. You know, just Google that and you'll see he said that about 37 times in the last couple of years. Dixie Carter would promise things and make proclamations and statements, and it'd be the same shit over and over and over again. Triple H, let me put it this way. The WWE Universe that enjoys the product, you know, because us at home, you know, yes, it costs money to subscribe to Netflix or Peacock or ESPN or whatever you're watching it from, YouTube TV, whatever. But we're not the ones that are going to the arena and spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. We're not traveling and spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on hotel, food, lodging, and tickets for a premium live event. You know, when the WWE Network was around, you know, the funny thing that Kevin and I used to always say is when people really used to bitch about a pay-per-view, a premium live event, we would be like, what are you complaining about? You paid $9.99. It's like you walk into a restaurant, have a 6-course meal, and then you're complaining that the bread was stale. And you're like, wait a minute, you only paid $9.99. You know, that's not a big deal. Yes, you pay a lot more now than $9.99. But the point is, the people out there that are really spending this money, those are the people WWE does not have to convince. The people online complaining about WWE, Triple H saying that WWE's firing on all cylinders, or, you know, the landscape of WWE is going to change at Clash in Italy, who are you addressing that to? Because the people that are not happy right now, you're just pissing them off more. It almost feels like he's trying to convince TKO or ESPN or Netflix that WWE is, you know, everything's good. And the sad thing about it is, let me put it this way. If you look at Raw's ratings from a year ago, or a year and a half ago, the ratings are very, very close to what they are now. In some cases, Raw does better numbers now than a year and a half ago. Not all the time, but sometimes, because it's available in more markets now at Netflix. You know, early this year we covered that they were going to be going to Japan and a few other countries. But my point is, when you look at a year and a half ago, and the ratings are very, very similar with Raw. SmackDown you really can't compare because Nielsen had that change. But then you also look at ticket sales. Okay, ticket sales might be down 15%. But then you realize ticket prices are up 30%. So they're making more money now. They just had a record quarter in revenue. So when you see record revenue, when you see them selling out in Italy, because they're smart, we can't have Clash in Oklahoma. We have to go to Clash in Italy. Yes, we have to spend more money for travel and everything else, but we could command high prices in Italy. So WWE is taking in insane money. So when he says that they're firing on all cylinders and the landscape of this, who is he actually saying it to? He's got to be saying it to corporate, because corporate probably, I don't think they give a shit about social media. When Nick Khan says he could care less what social media says, I do believe that to an extent. But when it's overwhelmingly, you know, a topic of concern, you have to take notice. You have to take notice. You know, you could have this mindset, people always trying to bring you down. But if I look online and everybody's like, wow, you know, Don Tony looks like he gained 60 pounds. Wow, he looks fat. Wow, he looks sickly. Wow, there's something wrong. You know, it's like, oh, that's just haters, jealous. They're always going to complain. Those are this. But when you see an overwhelming number of people saying the same shit over and over again, then maybe you got to look in the mirror and say, like, maybe something there is wrong. Maybe there is an issue. It's not fun for them to go on social media and see a shitload of complaints. Every time Triple H posts like a graphic for something, if you want to really be entertained, you got to go on Triple H's X account. And when he posts like a graphic, like he posts with Sal Ruka, and he does this, go look at the comments underneath. They just destroy Triple H with everything. You know, now you have people like, any text messages that you deleted? You're like, they're bringing up the text message shit from the lawsuit. They're bringing up so much stuff. Shit that has nothing to do with Sal Ruka. Just people are just waiting to just troll. But I agree with you. He sounds like a used car salesman. The thing is, though, he's not trying to sell the cars to us. It's almost like a reassurance to corporate, like, don't worry. We always have this noise. You know, we always have that fringe element of the IWC. So, Lost But Found says, who else is waiting for Jey Uso versus Jacob Fatu? Oh, that'll happen. That'll happen, and then you'll get Roman, like, with family, with bloodline, you know, blah, 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 blah. Or get it out of your system. I could see it. Get out of your system. You know, like, they're going to have friction. And you know what the funny thing is? I don't want to compare it, but people will understand why I say this. Doesn't it some way remind you of Jey Uso and Sami Zayn? If you think about it. I know Sammy's a brother from another mother. You know what I mean. Okay, there's got to be somebody in the bloodline that's at friction with someone. It's kind of like Sami Zayn and Jey from back in the day. And then they ended up being tight. That's what it kind of feels like right now. And then you know what'll happen? Jey will start telling Roman, don't trust him. Something's not right. Oos. I know Jacob. Something's not off. Something's not right. I know he's saying all the right things and doing it right. Something's not right. And he's going to warn. And then if Jacob Fatu ultimately turns heel, which I do believe will happen, Jacob will be like, I was right. And it kind of feels like the same shit. You could even throw Kevin Owens in there. You could even throw Cody Rhodes in there. And Cody Rhodes is trying to, put some sense in this person. Listen, this is that. It's kind of like when LA Knight trying to give advice. Hey, be careful. Instead of blah, 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 blah. It's just the same recycled stuff, just with a different actor. You watch. It's going to be Jey or Jimmy, and it'll probably be Jey. You're like, Oos, I don't trust him. Oos, I will bet you. Anything you want to bet, within the next couple of weeks, you'll have Jey Uso say to either Jimmy or Roman, I don't trust him. This is something, I don't trust him. Something not right. And then Jimmy will downplay it, or Roman will downplay it, and then Jey will end up being right. Bobby asks, can I see the Bloodline Civil War leading to a potential War Games match? How do I say this nicely? I hope the fuck not. I don't want to see that. We were teased that last year. Remember they were teasing, Zilla will come in and this person will come in and how are we going to fill out 5-on-5? I don't want to see that. That's November. We're only in June. Even if they leave and take an extended vacation to Samoa to help the needy and feed the poor and cure the sickly, and then come back 4 months later, fresh and, refreshed. I don't want to see that. And honestly, that could very well happen because this is WWE's comfort zone. Sometimes you go back what you're comfortable with. All right, we know this worked. We know this is easy. Just throw it out there. But instead of Sammy, we'll do Jacob. Instead of Jacob, we'll do this. Instead of this person, we'll do this. And you get very lazy with that. So, yes, that is very possible what you said. I just hope it doesn't happen. Because you look at everything that's happened so far. I think of others from CM Punk to Drew McIntyre. Look at how many people they can't figure out what to do right now. Some people deserved a vacation. Drew deserved a break. CM Punk deserved a break. Stephanie McMahon deserved a break. There's some people that absolutely deserved a little bit of time off, especially when you think of CM Punk getting older and Drew, family overseas. But it gets to a point where you start saying to yourself, oh my God, it's not just about vacation. It's we don't know how to fucking bring them back to TV. You look at Gunther. We bring it up all the time. Look at last year. He loses to Jey Uso. He taps out. Everything about Gunther is about that championship. He leaves for what, a month, 2 months? We don't hear a peep about Gunther. You would think the first thing he wants to do is get his championship back, and instead he goes after Pat McAfee. And then you're like, holy shit, we're now in the month of June, and this motherfucker is like, just this is what WWE's been doing. Giving some people off time is fine. But then when it's time that they're needed and brought back, a lot of ways, even LA Knight, look at how they brought him back. He's saying the same shit that he said last year. And now it sounds even worse. Adam Pearce is just talking like this and just, what's that with your finger? When I saw that today, I'm like, oh my God, I wish LA Knight had more of a nest egg or invested his money. Because if I'm LA Knight, they offer him a pay cut, bye-bye. I'm out of here. You know, whether he goes to AEW or just fucking retires or goes on the indies or goes back to TNA, I would have just said, fuck that, I'm out of here. You look at him, he comes off like a moron now. And it's not his fault. It's not him personally. It's the character. Look at an Adam Pearce. Go look at that promo again. In the early part of Adam Pearce's promo, you'll look and you'll see LA Knight glance down at Adam Pearce's fingers. And I can guarantee LA Knight's like, oh, fuck. I looked down too soon. Because Adam Pearce wasn't doing anything about pointing or anything like that. And then he looks again and Adam Pearce does this with his finger and he thinks he's pointing like the bloodline. Come on, man. It was just not good. So, speaking of LA Knight, Jim Khan says he's given up on LA Knight. Missing spots, botching on the Elimination Chamber. Well, that was January. On the Bloodline, he's like bootleg Sammy. Yeah. What is he supposed to do there? It's amazing that he can't feud with others. It's either Bloodline or Vision. That's all it is. If you even think back at SmackDown, it was Bloodline 2.0. LA Knight is Bloodline Vision. For a brief moment, it's Randy Orton. But for the most, it's Bloodline and Vision. You look at one of his most memorable feuds is when he showed up at Logan Paul's house. And then at WrestleMania, he showed up at ISHO Speed's house. And suddenly 2 weeks later, he's holding Logan Paul so ISHO Speed could fucking do a splash at WrestleMania. And they're chummy. It's just LA Knight. I tell you, over the years, people say to me, like, who are some of the most misused people WWE's ever had? Yesterday, we even talked about Sylvester Terkaiser. LA Knight is on that list. LA Knight is tremendously over. You'll have some people that say, LA Knight doesn't need a title. You know why LA Knight absolutely needs a title? Not for his ego, not for the record books, but it's WWE forced to acknowledge that they have so much cred in him that he would represent a division or the company with a championship. You know, titles, these are their props. You know, when someone touts, I'm a 15-time champion or a 10-time champion, it's not even, well, that means you lost 10 times. But that means that a company decided that you're going to play champion 10 times. And even though you didn't truly win the championship because it's scripted, a writer chose you to win that championship, the fact that they put the title on you meant that they had legitimacy in you to be the name that everybody talks about, the name that everybody goes after, the name at the top of whatever it is, whether it's a division or the company itself. That's why LA Knight needs a title, because that's acknowledgement from WWE that your name is at the top of the list. And I have not seen that. And I don't know if we will ever see that. So isn't it sad, man? I think it's sad. This was last week. Sorry. Clash in Italy. Mikey Ravello says Triple H said that WWE is firing on all cylinders. What a clown. You know, I almost wrote this on X, but I figured people wouldn't get the joke. WWE's firing on all cylinders if WWE was a lawnmower, because lawnmowers only have one cylinder. You know, WWE's firing on all cylinders. You know, some vehicles have 8 cylinders and some have 4. All right. And usually an 8-cylinder engine is more powerful than a 4-cylinder engine. An indie promotion would be 1 cylinder. AEW would probably be 3 or 4 cylinders. WWE should be 8 cylinders. TNA is probably 3 cylinders. You know, I think a step under AEW. Big step under AEW. But when Triple H says that they're firing on all cylinders, again, that sounds like what AS7607 said. He's like being a used car salesman. Like, corporate is going to agree with that. Could someone check the stock market? Just look up TKO's stock. I'm curious to see what the stock is right now. I'm curious if it's around $190 a share. I mean, if you notice, nobody talks about the stock lately, which usually means that it's probably doing good, because if the stock had any type of decent decline, everybody would make it a big story. So Big Time says $180 a share. It's a little bit less than I thought it would be, but 180 is still a shitload more than what it was a year ago. So listen, when Saudi Arabia's deal gets renewed, and it's going to be, excuse me, I take that back. Rocky Red says, no. My apologies to Big Time. Big Time is talking about 180 like a reversal. 180. That's what he meant. He wasn't talking about stock, so I don't want anybody to think he was wrong. My apologies to you, Big Time. The stock is $208. $208 a share. I mean, that's incredible when you think about it. And it's going to go higher. It's probably going to go like 220, 230, maybe even 240. That's insane. That's like numbers you would hear for something like an Amazon or something like that. I mean, I know some of the stock is even higher, but WWE stock, we always used to hear $70 a share, $80 a share. Back in the day, it was $10 a share. All right. Obviously, it was not worth what it is now. But when you see $208 a share, it's kind of hard to go against Triple H. I don't agree with him. WWE is not firing on all cylinders. WWE is on cruise control right now. That's what I think this is. Right now, WWE has found a stretch on the highway, which is called the Bloodline, and they're on cruise control. And they've kind of masqueraded with a little Danhausen. They masqueraded with a little bit of this, a little entertainment, a little bit of good wrestling, a little bit of this, a little nostalgia, this, that. I mean, look, you know, we're now a couple of weeks since, even before Saturday night's main event. What is Paige and Brie Bella doing? You know, you think about the women's tag team division, you think of some really legitimate good tag teams out there, but because of the nostalgia factor, because, you know, a lot of old school fans, oh my God, Brie's back, Paige is back. And it's nothing against them. But you realize, holy shit, how long? Liv Morgan had that championship for what, 100 days? And defended it against nobody. Is that her fault? No, that's WWE Creative's fault. Right now, WWE's found a stretch of the highway that they could go in cruise control. Sooner or later, they're going to hit a big speed bump. And it's going to be really interesting how they steer it. Because you start seeing the stock go down $20, $30, and the financial world starts taking notice. It's only a matter of time that one of these quarterly ratings, I'm thinking of TV ratings, the quarterly financials. It's only a matter of time that one of these quarterly financials is going to come back lower than anticipated. And if that is the crack that investors start fearing, it's going to be really interesting. What do they counter with? What do you counter with? Oba? You know, like Brock, we already see what they're doing with Brock. Brock is not the answer. I don't even think Oba is the answer. Because if you think about it, even if you put the world championship on Oba right now, who is he feud with? What's the Summer must outside of Brock Lesnar? Like, what's the feud that you would pay decent money to see Oba defend the championship against? You start actually breaking it down. You start thinking to yourself, if Oba was the world champion right now, Roman got injured or something, they decided to do what they did with CM Punk. Like, who does he fight against? You start thinking about it. You're like, Rusev? Penta? Jada McDonough? Because it's Raw. And then you realize, holy shit, like, they don't have any, like, mega feuds. Like, if Drew was on Raw, Drew and Oba might be interesting. Sheamus? Like, you start actually, this is why you cannot put the Jets behind Oba right now. Because when you actually break it down, you don't have that blockbuster match yet. You will in the future, but right now there's no blockbuster match. You look at AAA, the blockbuster match is going to be El Grande Americano versus Dominic Mysterio. That is going to be the big money match. And speaking of, they did announce the other night for Triple Mania. And somebody had asked me yesterday if they would treat Triple Mania like WrestleMania and have like a bunch of events. And I said no, because obviously the different locations, they're not going to have like a Hall of Fame and a week long of events. But what's something else that's also interesting about it is the 2 nights of Triple Mania have a day in between them. So you have night 1, which is going to be in Las Vegas, is Friday, September 11th. And then night 2 is not until Sunday, September 13th. So you're going to have a 24-hour respite between the first and second night of Triple Mania. And when you look at the poster, you see your usual AAA stars, but you also see Dominic, and you see Ray, and you see Penta, and you see Ray Phoenix. So obviously they're going to go more of a WWE type card or more of a WWE roster theme card for Vegas, because you're not going to, let me put it this way, I don't think you're going to have many people other than Green Shirt Guy and others that are going to buy a combo package, both tickets for both events. I don't know how many Mexicans are going to travel to Las Vegas and spend that kind of coinage because I must be there for night 1 of Triple Mania. Night 2 is where you're going to get El Grande Americano. Maybe you have Kaiser fight on both nights. Maybe they do something where Kaiser fights somebody on night 1 and the winner of that match gets Dominic 2 days later on night 2. I personally don't like that idea. I personally think you have to have contract signings and you need to have at least 2 months of build between Dominic and Kaiser. You have to have 2 months of build, clear cut. It's going to be a Grande Americano versus Dominic Mysterio, just like they did with Mask versus Mask. In the United States, it didn't catch attention really until about 2 weeks ago. And now it's taken a life of its own. And it's tremendous to see how much attention it's getting. Right now, the YouTube has 2 million views almost. 2 million for AAA. So when people are like, oh, it should have been a premium live event, all of AAA's programming is on YouTube. They're making some nice revenue right now from that Mask versus Mask. But you need good 2 months of build. You cannot have Kaiser in doubt for that title 2 days before because you're not going to sell the tickets like you should. So, but that was amazing. The Noches de la Grandes. And don't forget, you have week 2 coming up, and Bailey will be on that card. So Wednesday, we'll get into week 2, and we'll get into predictions because they're going to be doing some good shit as well on week 2. So I'll tell you the truth, I kind of like AAA's event more than Clash in Italy. I think Clash in Italy, every match was good, solid, but I think the problem was the 2 matches that should have been the biggest of the night were overshadowed. Brock and Oba was tremendous, and Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley tore it up. They have tremendous chemistry. We weren't expecting it to be a match of the year candidate, but it over-delivered. And then you look at Becky Lynch and Sol Ruka, which was a tremendous match. And then you realize that Gunther and Cody could have been a tremendous match and had a horrible ending. And then you had Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns, which was great for a street fight. But in the end, you're left with MFTs. And you're like, oh my God, this is where they're going with this? And then you're left with a bad taste in your mouth. And now you even look like suddenly Jacob is conforming now. So, all right. Let's get into Raw, and then we are going to call it. So we open up with Raw, and we have the Bloodline arriving at the building. First, we get a recap of Clash in Italy, obviously. Roman Reigns and the Usos arrive, and the fans are humming the OTC theme. Italy fans were great. I liked with the 2 count, the uno, dos, tres. I like how they were doing that because it reminds me of when they go to Mexico and they do that too. But Roman Reigns and the Usos show up, and they immediately hit the ring. And for about 5 minutes, the fans are serenading Roman Reigns. First, they're humming his theme, and then they're doing Roman Reigns, the whole shtick. And you could tell that Roman Reigns, was very, very touched by it. Italy looked like they were having a great fucking time. He gets on the mic. Turin, Italy acknowledges him. And then he says he's been waiting for this for a long time. And let's not beat around the bush. It's time for Jacob Fatu to acknowledge his tribal chief. And Jacob comes down, and now they're serenading Jacob Fatu. And they're doing the ole, 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 Fatu, Fatu. And, you get the stare down with Jacob Fatu and Jey Uso. And Jacob Fatu gets on the mic. And he says he knew the consequences if he would have took that title last night. But he also knew the consequences if he took the L. And he's like, hell, I've been taking L's my whole life. And the fans are serenading him even more. Because, when Jacob says, let's keep it 100, that is, he's 100. And the fans could feel when someone's authentic. That's why they fell in love with Kaiser in Mexico. They realized this was not just somebody who was on thin ice with WWE creatively and had to make it work, playing Mexican lucha libre under a mask with no previous, as far as we know, a connection to it. And Chad Gable's promo after he lost the match was beautiful. And he said what he originally, that was the whole storyline. Originally, El Grande Americano was sarcasm. It was mocking lucha libre. And then something beautiful happened. Chad Gable fell in love with it. And Ludwig Kaiser fell in love with it. Now, they're not going to acknowledge Ludwig Kaiser because he's under the mask. And he's still under the mask. But it's the same thing with Jacob Fatu. When fans could sense authenticity and it feels real, you get behind it even more. If you allow me for a minute to acknowledge someone who, I didn't know him well personally, but I knew him enough. And to me is a great example, Homicide. Homicide, growing up in the Northeast here in the Indies, when that guy would cut promos sometimes, you'd feel it. It felt real because a lot of what he talked about was real, talking about his neighborhood and everything else and where he came from, the struggles and everything. Eddie Kingston with AEW. Fans fell in love with Eddie Kingston because it was real. It was 100. So Jacob, if you look over the years, you don't have many people in the WWE talking Cali style, street style, like we talked about last night. I think the closest you got is when Rikishi wanted to make a difference. Wasn't it Rikishi? I just want to make a difference. He tried to be street, and it wasn't street at all. So the fans are serenading Jacob Fatu. And then he says on the mic, he says, last night at Clash in Italy, in front of the whole world, including my children seen their father being a man, taking a loss, and keeping his word. And that's all he needed to say, and the crowd got behind him even more. And he says, and last night, I lost to my tribal chief. Then he looks at Jey Uso to, kind of break up a little bit of the softy, and he's like, but I didn't lose to that punk ass. So you got that real dissension with Jey Uso and Jacob. But then he looks at Roman, he says, let's keep it 100. I acknowledge you. And Roman says to Jacob, says, you don't understand this right now, but I love you. Then Jimmy goes on the mic, and with all due respect, my friends, outside of LA Knight, it's the same smoke and mirrors that Roman Reigns said to Kathy Kelly after Clash in Italy, which I shared with you moments ago. Jimmy sends a message to the locker room. It's a warning shot. They the twos, we the ones. Everybody, including Jacob Fatu, put their finger in the air. Music hits. They walk down the rampway, super slow. And Roman not really saying much, but kind of like nodding his head like, yeah, he acknowledged me. Like everything is good. So, you remember what we said before. That obviously will take a significant change next week on Raw when they're in Paris next week. So, we see highlights of El Grande Americano versus El Grande, the original El Grande Americano. We find out that the whole match in its entirety will air on Netflix immediately after Raw. And again, I watched it again. I just didn't like the black and white stuff at the end. I didn't think that was needed. That's why when I was searching for pictures yesterday, I made sure it was either going to be color pictures or no pictures at all. So we get the narrative. They're narrating a little preview of the King of the Ring and the Queen of the Ring tournament. And for some reason, I really loved Wade Barrett's narration. Wade Barrett is slowing down when he talks, and he sounds a little deeper. And if you go back and you watch the clip again, you listen to Wade Barrett, it almost sounds like he's advertising himself to do narration for other sports out there or other events, because he sounded legit. And what I mean by that is he didn't sound like a wrestling guy. Like there's some voices who have cut promos over the years, very familiar voices. The guy who did classic baseball, who would do intros for WWE, and you had that other guy for TNA, guy who was in the movie They Lived with Piper. Wade Barrett, I don't know, I was extremely impressed with his narration today of the tournament. So we get the first tournament match, and it was Femi defeating Penta, Carmelo Hayes, and Solo Sikoa to advance. We had, the usual intro, and it was funny because I was trying to determine if it was piped in or not. And something I've noticed about the Femi chants, and it'll convince you that it starts out piped, and then it ends up authentic. If you record, or if you just go on X and record maybe 10 seconds of the Oba chant when he first comes out, after the silhouette, when he starts going down to the rampway, if you record 10 seconds of that Oba chant, next week in Paris, record another 10 seconds of the chant when he's going down the rampway. And then the week after, record 10 seconds. And if you listen to them side by side by side, the pitch of the voice sounds exactly the same. Because I have last week's, and I had Clash in Italy, and I had today's. And if you listen to the pitch of the chant, it's identical. It's identical. You don't hear any breaking of the voice. You don't hear like one might be a little bit more feminine than the others, or a little bit more younger. It's just a very stern male, in unison, like everybody synchronized perfectly. And you could tell it is piped in big time in the beginning. And then it gets everybody into chanting. And then ultimately everybody starts chanting. This was a tremendous match. And the very end of it, it's almost like WWE starting to really push the template that put on a good match, but go balls out the final 2 minutes. They've done that numerous times in recent weeks. The most recent one, Javon Evans and Penta last week. The match itself was tremendous. You get "This is awesome" chants throughout the match, but the final 2 minutes of that match last week, it's almost like when you're doing like a firework display. This is kind of like Javon Evans and Penta last week, and Ober's four-way this week is kind of like a fireworks display. You have an amazing fireworks display the whole entire match. As you're watching it, this is awesome. Then you get the final 2 minutes where suddenly it just gets amped up 10 times more. And you watch like a lot of Gucci fireworks and everything. The final 2 minutes, you see this unbelievable surge of fireworks. And just the finale. And that's kind of like what WWE is starting to do now. They even did it yesterday. Sal Ruka and Becky Lynch. They do it quite more than you realize. And this is not a new thing. I want to make that clear. It's not new. But it's something that they are emphasizing more because you see it repeatedly happening. It's like the grand finale. 2 minutes. You could kind of figure out where the match is going to end. You see that sudden surge, like, oh, this must be the 2 minutes, the 2 to 3 minutes before it ends. So towards the end of this match, we had, because it's no disqualification, no countouts, Tala Tonga and Solo Sikoa are double teaming Oba outside the ring. And at one point, Tala Tonga kicks Oba Femi over the barricade. So Oba's out for a little while. And then, you got Solo and Penta and Carmelo Hayes doing their thing in the ring. And then there's one point where Solo's in the ring and he thinks he's got the upper hand and he's starting to smile. And, we see it from the back view of Tala Tonga. So Tala Tonga is looking at Solo and Solo is smiling. He's kind of laughing. All of a sudden he gets a serious look on his face. And he's looking on the side and he realizes Oba Femi is up. So he's telling Tala to turn around. Tala Tonga turns around and sees Oba Femi behind the barricade standing up. And Tala Tonga goes to get Oba, and Oba clotheslines him. And here's where you get that 2 minutes of the grand finale. So one thing I will tell you, and I hope you remember this. The biggest difference between Oba Femi and Goldberg, because there's a lot of comparisons. Obviously, Oba Femi has much more in his arsenal, and he's much more polished than Goldberg was at this point in his career. One thing that Oba has, and it's not even fucking close, and tonight was a perfect example of it, Oba Femi, and remember this comment, has unbelievable stamina. Oba Femi has freaky stamina. That guy just nonstop, wasn't blown up at all, wasn't heavy breathing. Oba literally clotheslines Tala Tonga. And then he starts running back to the ring, like fast pacing, and Carmelo Hayes is on the apron. And Oba Femi just goes up to him and just chops him once. And it loud chop. Carmelo goes right down and everybody's losing their shit. And literally not even 3 seconds after, here's Oba hitting a spine buster to Penta. And if that wasn't enough, Oba then picks up Tala Tonga and puts him through a table. And if that wasn't enough, he runs back into the ring, drops Solo Sikoa, and then hits the fall from grace. All of this happened in less than 2 minutes. Clothesline to Tala. I don't even need to look at my notes. Clothesline to Tala. An insane chop to Carmelo Hayes. Drops Penta with a spine buster. Goes back outside. Puts Tala Tonga through a table. Back in the ring. Drops Solo Sikoa and hits the fall from grace. And crowd is going nuts. Oba Femi advances. Then he gets on the microphone. And he starts addressing Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, you asked the question. How would I handle, you taking an ass whipping? Brock Lesnar, you asked, how would Femi handle this? And he's going through the whole thing and taking 7 F5s. And he says, I'm here. I'm winning. I'm going to be king of the ring. Oh, and you coward. Don't forget, it's 1-1. I will see you down the road. So, as we said yesterday, I don't have the graphic in this computer anymore, but if you saw the graphic I made yesterday, we are definitely getting Brock Oba 3. And I do believe it will be at SummerSlam. And no, I don't believe that's a retirement match. You know, what we have said about Brock Lesnar's contract and how it will be handled in the future is absolutely the way they're going to go forward. This is not going to be a case where he's going to take the shoes off again and people are going to be like, we don't believe you this time around. That's how they're handling Brock Lesnar. By Brock Lesnar being retired, anytime he wants to come back for a match, they can do it. So it eliminates the, hey, what's going on with Brock's contract? Hey, how much time does Brock have left in his contract? We don't need to repeat the conversation we've had the past couple of weeks, but I'm convinced what we've said is correct. I have nothing to verify it with, but it only makes sense. It only makes sense. So he advances. So as of right now, this is your, let me do this instead. You'll see this better. Okay. This is where we stand with the King of the Ring tournament. So now Femi advances to the semifinal, and Femi will face the winner of Dominic Mysterio, Bron Breakker, Trick Williams, and Damian Priest. So I'm assuming that match happens on SmackDown. I think that match will happen on SmackDown. So Oba will face the winner of that 4-way. So that's the match result we had now. Now, on the opposite side, as we said yesterday, next week you'll have Seth Rollins, Jamon Evans, Talatonga, and Ricky Saints. The winner of that match will go on to face the winner of Jey Uso versus LA Knight versus Royce Keys versus Finn Balor. And it is kind of interesting that Roman Reigns called out Royce Keys and LA Knight last night at Clash in Italy, which just so happened they're in the same match with Jey Uso in the tournament. I think it's just coincidence, my friends, but that's what you have coming in that tournament. And, Roman Reigns would say something to Jey Uso a little bit later. And it was interesting the way it went down, because you would have thought that Jey Uso had a match tonight. You remember what happened? Well, I'll get to it. When Roman Reigns was in the back and he saw the clip of when he bumped into Cody at Clash in Italy, I'll explain in a few moments. So now we get Sol Ruca. She's brought down to the ring by Kathy Kelly. I'm not trying to be a jerk. We predicted Sol Ruca was going to win the title where she did and all that. And Sol Ruca will definitely be an awesome champion. She's extremely talented. And if you got to watch even a quarter of what she did in NXT, she is beyond ready. I'm not disrespecting her in that way. But I also will say this. Is the de facto now when somebody wins a championship, you deserve it? I mean, the fans were chanting loud today, you deserve it. And I'm like, she's on the roster for a month. I mean, I get it. She's been in NXT. But now it's like de facto, somebody wins a belt and it's automatic. You deserve it. You deserve it. How's about no, I don't think she deserves it. She earned it and she'll be a great champion, but she's been on the roster for a fucking month. So she's in the ring. She says it's a dream come true. She believed that she could be champion, but more importantly, the fans believed that she could be champion. And she says to Italy, grazie. Just like that. Grazie, which means thank you. And the crowd is big time behind her. And speaking of big time, she starts putting over big time Becks. And she definitely acknowledges, Becky Lynch and how important she is and how good of a champion and, her credentials, obviously. And, but then she moves back onto herself. She says, my work has just begun. She's going to be a fighting champion. So she puts the roster on notice. And remember when I said yesterday that I made a prediction that she's going to slowly start stopping the word snatch. We had a fun conversation yesterday about it. I said that it just sounds goofy when someone says, I'm going to snatch your soul. Like, you hear that in a bad horror film. Saruka's saying it feels scripted. And I said yesterday, I think slowly they're going to start moving away from the soul snatching. Today, she actually said that anyone who steps up, your soul will be mine. She did not say the snatch word. Maybe because Italians used to use that word more than others. You know, I know in my neighborhood back in the day, that would be a very popular word amongst the Italians. Hey, I'd love to get that snatch over there. Oh my God, you see that snatch? Oh, I'd love to get a piece of that. So I don't think it's because they were in Italy. I think they're going to slowly, I expect her to say it. Don't get me wrong. But anybody who steps up, your soul will be mine. The soul taker. Anybody remember who the soul taker was down south? We see footage of Cody walking in the back yesterday, and Roman Reigns opens his locker room, and they get a little brief stare down with him and Cody Rhodes. So then we see live, Roman is looking at the monitor, and he's with the Usos, and Roman's like, I'll get to him later, meaning Cody Rhodes. And he says, but Jacob, he needs tough love. And he says, that's all that Jacob understands is tough love. So Roman looks at Jey Uso, because Jey Uso's in the tournament. And he says to Jey, Jey, talking about the World Heavyweight Championship, you had this one before, but you never tasted the other one. With King of the Ring, take the other title at SummerSlam. Win King of the Ring, take the other title at SummerSlam. Remember, there's two ends to every table. Not if the table is round, but he said there's two ends of every table. Basically saying like Roman could be on one end, Jey could be on the other end. So he's trying to get Jey to win King of the Ring and go after Cody. So Jey walks off, and Jimmy's going to walk off with him. And this is where I got confused, where Roman says to Jimmy, he's like, no, he's got to do this on his own. And I was like, wait, are we getting a qualifying match tonight? We getting a tournament match tonight? But I don't recall Jey Uso wrestling tonight. So, Jay Carlos, my friend, thank you so much. Thank you for the super shout out. Send in some coffee cash. I absolutely will enjoy a coffee tomorrow. I thank you very much, my friend. Hope all is well with you. Much love, my friend. You know that. So now we got Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio defeating Rusev and Ethan Page. And my God, it's Rey Mysterio over in Italy. Holy shit, was he over. And they milked his in-ring work tonight so good and so big, and Ethan Page was perfect for it. Dragon Lee started the match and dominated most of the match. And there was a couple of times where Rey was going to get the tag, and the crowd was just losing their stuff, like just really anticipating Rey getting involved in this match. And there's one point where we think Rey's finally going to get tagged into the match, and Ethan Page pulls Rey's legs from under him, and he falls to the floor, and we go to commercial. So it was a way to kind of like delay it. But we come back from commercial, and shortly thereafter, Rey finally gets the tag. And he cleans house, and the crowd is going nuts. And, obviously, his career is starting to wind down. I'm also, if you heard my discussion a month ago, I'm convinced that Rey is also one of those that have been asked to take a pay cut. We actually predicted a month ago that WWE probably said to Rey, we need you more in AAA than anything else right now. I think it was the third week in May's episode that we talked about that. But Rey's in there for a little bit, doing what he does. Dragon Lee ultimately gets back in, takes out Rusev, and then it's left to Rey and Ethan Page, and Rey hits the 619 and then drops the dime on Ethan Page and gets the victory. Clean pin. No clusterfuck, no dissension with Rusev and Ethan Page afterwards. It was a tremendous match. And then right after that, we're in the back and Penta's with Adam Pearce. Penta wants Ray. And Adam Pearce says to Penta, well, guess what? Ray wants a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. The WWE Universe want to see that. And Penta says, absolutely, I want it too. Let's do it. So they make the match official. Penta walks off, and here comes LA Knight. Just absolutely horrid. LA Knight's accusing Adam Pearce of being oozy. He actually said, you're being oozy. I could only imagine LA Knight being told this by creative and in a bathroom somewhere, making sure no one else is around, and he's looking in the mirror at himself. He's like, these motherfuckers want me to say to Adam Pearce, you're being oozy. Like, it felt scripted, stupid, made no sense. And Adam Pearce is going along with it. And Adam Pearce is like, I'm not oozy. I don't want to see and he's just like with all his denial stuff. And again, as he's doing it, Adam Pearce moves around his hands a little bit, just like I do. I don't do it all the time because I'm a little tired sometimes when I do these shows, but sometimes you see me on Sunday, like I talk like this. This is what I do. So as Adam Pearce is doing this, you look and LA Knight looks down on his finger and you could see it clearly. He's looking at his finger and Adam Pearce is not doing anything. Like you would have almost thought he was like, is that shit on your finger or something? But, kind of like the Ricochet, if you know what I mean? Thumb in the S. So LA Knight looks too early and they continue the back and forth. And then Adam Pearce does this and LA Knight looks down again and says, wait a minute. And he grabs Adam Pearce and he accuses Adam Pearce of holding the finger up like the ones. And looks at him and just says, like, terrible. Walks off. Awful. The whole segment just decrepit. It probably the dumbest thing of the night, and I'm just really disappointed. I wrote dumb times 100. I put dumb times 100 in my notes. That's how bad it was. So now you got Io Sky defeating Roxanne Perez, Giulia, and Lash Legend. Crowd was into Roxanne Perez big time. Little reminiscent of John Cena chants. Let's go, Roxy. Roxy sucks. Let's go, Roxy. Roxy sucks. I don't know what heterosexual man would say that, but it felt like the Cena chants because the high pitched was the girls and the kids. Let's go, Roxy. Roxy sucks. So she was the most over, I think, in this, next to Io Sky, obviously. And if you heard our show yesterday, we said do not discount the possibility of Io Sky challenging Rhea Ripley for the women's championship at SummerSlam. I think Io Sky could be the favorite to win this. And then especially you think about her popularity, you think about Saudi Arabia and then winning that and then going on to SummerSlam, this relationship she has with Rhea Ripley, if she challenged Rhea Ripley, it would be really fascinating because Io could challenge Liv. And I don't think that'll happen. I think if Io wins this tournament, she will challenge Rhea. I think it'll be a friendly challenge amongst friends, and I think that would be a really interesting dynamic to do at SummerSlam. Now, this could be just me thinking way too hard about this, but this match was tremendous. But towards the end of the match, I didn't like it for Giulia because Lash hits the Lash extension on Giulia. Giulia's out. Lash goes for a pin. Io breaks it up and dumps Lash Legend outside the ring. Roxanne's already laid out outside the ring. Io proceeds to climb the ropes and hit the moonsault. So it's not like she hit another move on Giulia and then nailed the moonsault. Giulia was still out from Lash's move. So Giulia gets pinned. And again, I'm kind of surprised on how bad WWE is using Giulia right now. But Io Sky getting the victory, I am 100% behind. No doubt about it. And as of right now, here's what the brackets look like. Io Sky advances. She will end up facing the winner of Bayley versus Raquel Rodriguez versus JC Jane versus Kiana James. So you let your, imagination run wild. Maybe after we recap Raw, maybe we'll just get into a quick, lighthearted prediction on both tournaments, and then we'll call it. But that's what we have right now. On the opposite side, we have, and this match will happen next week, Liv Morgan versus Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss versus Chelsea Green. Winner of that match will go on to face the winner of Sol Ruca, Lyra Valkyria, Charlotte Flair, Jade Cargill. And again, Liv Morgan is in this match, as we speculated yesterday, because she's greedy. She wants to have all the gold. So she's not winning to take the night off. She's winning because if she has her win, she can face Rhea and become a double champion. So that's what we have as of right now. So next, we see Bayley and Lyra in the back talking about Queen in the Ring. Bayley, this is her first, I guess, appearance at Queen in the Ring tournament. They're talking about their appearance, and here comes Sol Ruca. And in the middle of the promo, Lyra sees Sol, and Lyra walks off. Hey, Sol, congratulations on your win, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, and by the way, you said, you're a fighting champion, this and that, and Lyra would love to have the first shot. So Sol Ruca says, no problem. So now we know Sol Ruca's first challenger, and that will be Lyra Valkyria. Obviously, that challenge will be unsuccessfully done. Sol Ruca will retain. And as Sol Ruca walks off, Bayley was a little annoyed. She's like, we were in the middle of something, talking about Queen of the Ring. And Lyra's like, yeah, but I'm getting a title shot. And Bayley's like, oh, that's nice. Remember what we said last week? That I don't know how long Bayley and Lyra are going to remain a tag team. I'm very, very concerned. I think 3 months from now, they are done as a tag team. We had this conversation not even a week ago. Today, you see Lyra basically taking it upon herself to go for a singles match. Yes, Queen of the Ring is singles also. But Lyra taking it upon herself in the middle of a conversation with Bayley, Kathy Kelly, and walks off to challenge Sol Ruca. So that's when we see the Judgment Day segment in the back. Roxanne Perez is touting that she lost. Liv looks at her and Liv's like, the Judgment Day doesn't pout. And by the way, Liv is in Queen of the Ring. Dom's in King of the Ring. They're going to go on and they're going to win it. And then Raquel is looking at them like, oh, what about me? Because Raquel's in the tournament too. And Liv's like, oh yeah, you too. And it's kind of interesting because it's starting to come across like Liv is about me. And remember, anytime somebody's like me, that's the beginning of the end of them in Judgment Day. It happened with Finn. It happened with Damian Priest. You kind of feel like, they're trying to make it seem like Liv is more about herself and not about the team. But, kind of like trying to cheer up Roxanne Perez, but not. Roxy, your family, and this and that. And then they all walk off, and Liv's got this just funny look on her face like, I'm the one that's going to win this. Just very cocky and confident. So then we get the main event. And, this was very good. There was a bump that I did not expect to see. There was one that was hysterically funny. We had Seth Rollins defeat Bron Breakker in the main event of Raw. Now, I know what some of you are going to say, wow, Seth Rollins can't even job to Bron Breakker. Well, he's jobbed before, but the way they did this match was excellent. There was a lot of heat between the two. It felt like two guys that truly don't like each other. Crowd was into it big time into Rollins, but also showing a lot of respect to Bron Breakker. You could tell that these two guys like working with each other. And there's towards the latter part of the match, there's a spot where now you had an Italian announcing team, commentating team. You had, obviously, Corey Graves and Michael Cole, but you also had two Italian guys. One of them wasn't even Italian, which is funny. But so you have the Italians commentators table right next to Michael Cole and Corey Graves. So there's a spot where Bron Breakker drapes Seth Rollins on the regular WWE commentators table, and he climbs onto the Italians table, and he's going to run and do a spear from one table to the other. So as he runs and charges Rollins, somehow Seth Rollins reverses it and turns it into a pedigree through the table. And crowd is chanting, holy shit. And decent spot, very good spot. Seth realizes he's got to bring Bron in the ring to defeat him, so he brings Bron Breakker in the ring, hits another pedigree for just the 2 count. And they're really putting over that how did Bron Breakker kick out of that. So this is when we get clusterfuck. Austin Theory shows up, tries to interfere in the match, but ends up getting laid out by Seth Rollins. Paul Heyman then climbs the apron, distracts the referee. So with the referee looking the other way towards Paul Heyman, Austin Theory hits Seth Rollins in the back of the head with his tag team championship. So Seth Rollins goes down. And then here comes Montez Ford out of nowhere. And if you go back and watch it, the athleticism is unbelievable. It's amazing. But it's ridiculous when something like this happens. Picture this. Austin Theory's outside of the ring. If you're looking at your television, Austin Theory's outside of the ring on the left side of your screen, in the corner. Montez Ford enters the ring from the right side. Now, he doesn't touch Bron Breakker, so he doesn't get disqualified. But he enters the ring, runs to the other side of the ring, and dives without touching the ropes over the top rope, supposedly onto Austin Theory. You've seen that spot before. It's amazing how high he can get. Problem is, he runs the rope, dives over, and completely overshoots Austin Theory. Might have touched Austin Theory by the top of his collar of his shirt. Did not touch him pretty much at all, and Austin Theory goes down. And it just looked horrendously bad. People were popping for the dive, but he totally missed Austin Theory. So now you got Montez Ford out. You have Austin Theory out. And now Seth Rollins goes for a curb stomp. Doesn't get it. Bron Breakker hits a spear and only gets a 2 count. So once again, the commentators, how did Seth Rollins kick out and blah, blah, blah. So Seth Rollins hits another pedigree. No, he hits a curb stomp and then goes for the pin, and Paul Heyman pulls Bron Breakker's foot under the rope. Referee didn't see it. Paul Heyman's pointed to it. Referee didn't see it. So he didn't get any ejection, which was good for a reason. Seth Rollins apparently saw it. So Paul Heyman's outside the ring. Seth Rollins is just staring a hole through Paul Heyman. And Seth Rollins has got this look on his face like he's going to nail Paul Heyman with a fist. So Paul Heyman's outside the ring. Seth Rollins slowly goes outside the ring. And Bron Breakker, we thought, was inside the ring. And, you know, like Paul Heyman is standing up for himself pretty much, but he's backtracking just a little bit. And Seth is talking smack and Paul Heyman's talking back. In the midst of all of this, Bron Breakker decides he's going to run around the ring to hit the spear on Rollins on the opposite side. And I guess Paul Heyman knew as well. That's why he was ballsy and stood up to Seth Rollins. Problem is, at the very last second, Seth Rollins pulled Paul Heyman into harm's way. And Bron Breakker speared Paul Heyman through the barricade. And, you know, I tell you, it's interesting that Paul Heyman is getting a little bit more physical recently. You would have thought maybe he lost a little bit of weight and feels a little confident he could take a little bit of a bump here and there. But, you know, listen, I love Paul Heyman. absolutely, appreciate everything he's done to entertain me over the years, especially with ECW, but he is as walrus as he's ever been. And he got speared through the barricade, and Bron Breakker he's looking in disbelief like, holy shit, what did I do? So suddenly Bron hits the ring again. Now the referee is busy looking at Paul Heyman, almost tending to Paul Heyman. So Bron Breakker enters the ring, and he's so pissed off. He just wants to charge and spear Seth Rollins, but there's a problem. Seth Rollins somehow got a hold of the tag team championship that Austin Theory's holding, or Bron, could be Bron's championship as well. Maybe he's a tag team champion now. And Seth had it draped around his waist. So when Bron went for the spear, the story is that Bron went shoulder first, head first into the championship. Kind of reminiscent when Goldberg went for the spear on Bret Hart in WCW, and Bret pulled, the metal out from under his pants, his under his shirt. Very reminiscent of that. So Bron hits the spear and is kind of knocked out. And you realized what just happened. It took a few seconds to sink in, and then it allows Seth Rollins to hit the curb stomp. The only problem I had with it is if you go back and watch it, Bron Breakker was selling like almost as if he was laid out. But then suddenly you look and Bron Breakker is on all fours facing the other way, and obviously he's in position waiting to get curb stomped. So it kind of reminded me of when only in Rey Mysterio matches that for the most part you could hit somebody in the balls in a Rey Mysterio match. You could hit them in the head. You could step on their toes. You could give them a wet willy. You could choke them, pull their hair, pull their pants down. Whatever you do during a Rey match, for some reason, they always end up draped over the middle rope. Doesn't matter what you do. You could literally like pull someone's pants down and somehow they just end up like laid out under the rope. So he hits the 619. So this is what it felt like. It's like, oh, Bron was just laid out, but he's in perfect position now where he's on all fours. Either to bark like a dog like Trish to Vince that time or take the curb stomp. So Seth Rollins gets the victory. And that's how we go off the air. Let me tell you something. I honestly think Raw tonight flowed better than Clash in Italy. Clash in Italy, one thing that Triple H said yesterday that I do agree with, this had WrestleMania quality matches on it. I said in my predictions last week that this might be the most stacked 5-match card I've seen in recent memory for the WWE. But I also feel that the matches that should have been the talk really had circumstances around it that made it disappointing. I also am very shocked that Cody Rhodes and Gunther was the shortest match of the night outside of Brock versus Oba. When you realize that Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill went 5 minutes longer than Gunther and Cody Rhodes, that's saying something. And as I said yesterday, and I'll say it now in closing, this first hour idea that WWE is doing on ESPN, this is ESPN's idea. ESPN is, let's do the first hour for free, and maybe we can get some people to sign up or upgrade to the unlimited and see the rest of the premium live event paying for it. That's what this is. And ESPN has already paid WWE, so ESPN could do whatever they want with it. If they decide they want to air the whole thing for free, they can. If they want to put the whole thing on unlimited, they can. If they want to have the first hour on ESPN 1, the second hour on ESPN 2, and the third hour on ESPN Espanol, they can do that also. They can do whatever they want with it. But it's hurting the premium live events because when you realize that Cody versus Gunther is on a free part of the show, it's more about trying to convince people to subscribe or upgrade to unlimited than actually having the two people do what they do best. And that's like that controversy about the foot under the rope and all that stuff. It's like, okay, we have to sell this to get people to sign up for the rest of the show. So we got to do something that kind of like piques the curiosity, the interest, and it hurt the match. Yesterday felt like a best of. If you know those two guys, you watch their tables match from last week, you watch previous matches they've had, the interactions they've had, it just felt like they made a checklist of everything that they do that works, and they decided, let's all do that during the match. To me, it didn't really tell the story as it should. It just felt like everything that they know they can do that hits, let's do it. And it was all to try to sell people to buy ESPN. And that sucks because it really took away from the show yesterday. It really did. That's why, if you really think about it, the three matches that were kind of in the middle ended up delivering, in my opinion, better than anything else because they weren't the focal point of it. Of course, Brock Olber was a huge part of it, but we all knew that it was going to go to three. You know, we had some fun yesterday about people online. They're all shocked. Do you think there's only a three at SummerSlam? Like, they knew it was going to be a three at SummerSlam, but they, just for the engagement, they act naive and ignorant about it. So very quickly, just to wrap this up, and we're going to call it because we're right at the 2-hour mark. So as of right now, my early thinking, I don't think, as far as Liv Morgan versus Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss versus Chelsea Green, I don't think you put Liv Morgan in this tournament just to lose the first round. I personally think if she's going to be greedy, you have to tease that the greed could possibly happen. So I think Liv Morgan is going to advance in her match, unless Stephanie Vicaire shows up and ruins it, which I don't think is going to happen. On the match of Sol Ruca versus Lara Vacaria versus Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill, if Liv Morgan is going to advance, I could see, I don't think you should have Sol Ruca advance because she's a champion, and unless she's going to win the whole thing, you don't want her to lose a quarterfinal. So I say no to Sol Ruca. Lara Vacaria is going to get a title shot against Sol Ruca, so she doesn't need to advance either. It now comes down to Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill, and the problem is those two are going to be feuding with each other. So they could end up negating each other. So I almost feel that Lara, as much as I don't want to see Lara Vacaria advance in this, because I'm not like feeling Liv Morgan versus Lara Vacaria. Sure, you could have Becky and Sol advance and get the rematch with no title on the line, but I don't think I want to see that either. There's some people out there that are absolutely rooting for Chelsea Green, but I don't think Chelsea Green is going to Saudi Arabia. Not for any other specific reason. And Alexa Bliss, even though a lot of people want to see Alexa advance, unless you do Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair in the next round. And then you could possibly have Alexa Bliss go to Saudi Arabia, and then Jade Cargill causes Charlotte Flair the win in the semifinal. You'd be surprised how many people want to see Alexa Bliss advance in this. The thing is, I still believe Io Sky will go to the final. So as far as Bayley versus Raquel Rodriguez versus JC Jane and Kiana James, a lot of people want to see JC Jane go to the final, but JC Jane's not a household name in Saudi Arabia. I don't think you have JC Jane go to Saudi. I think it could be Io Sky versus Raquel Rodriguez in the semifinal, and then it's Io Sky that goes to Saudi Arabia. At the end of the day, I'm going with Io Sky to win it all. I actually think Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley could be the match. Liv Morgan could also be the match, but Liv Morgan will probably defend her championship SummerSlam weekend. Remember, it's 2 nights. So why would you have Liv as a champion fighting for someone else's title? So I do believe Liv will not go to Saudi Arabia as champion. And remember, it's Night of Champions, so maybe she ends up defending her championship after all. On the men's side, I think is a little bit easier to determine. As far as Femi goes, it really comes down to you want Oba versus Dom, Oba versus Trick, Oba versus Bron Breakker, or Oba versus Damian Priest. In my honest opinion, Damian Priest has no chance whatsoever. Dominic Mysterio is going to be very busy very, very soon with AAA, so I don't think Dom should advance. I think Bron Breakker would be very interesting, but Oba, I think, is going to have, you know what? I could see Oba and Dominic going at it just because Oba will squash Dom like a grape. I could see Dom and Liv advancing one extra round, and they're still in it. But I don't think Oba will squash Bron Breakker. Oba, they're not going to have against Damian Priest, and I don't think you're going to have Oba Femi versus Trick Williams, although I think that would be awesome. The thing about a four-way is that Trick Williams doesn't have to get pinned, so Trick will lose this match, but not be the outcome of it. I think Damian Priest is the one who's going to get pinned out of all of this. I'm going to go with Dom and Oba, and it'll lead to Oba in the finals. I think Oba will go on to Night of Champions. On the opposite side, you have Seth Rollins, Javon Evans, Tala Tonga, and Ricky Saints. Tala Tonga I have as much of a chance of winning as Tala Tonga. Javon Evans, it's interesting. I don't think Javon Evans is in the level yet to possibly be King of the Ring. So I would say no there. I think somebody will cause Seth Rollins to lose. So I actually think I'm going to go with Ricky Saints to advance just to the semifinal. On the opposite side, you have Jey Uso, LA Knight, Royce Keys, and Finn Balor. And, I almost feel like you could have Jey Uso advance. Boy, Royce Keys would be pretty. I tell you, you do Royce Keys versus Oba Femi in Saudi Arabia. That would be bad. Because you got to think in the mindset of Saudi Arabia. They might be into two fucking giant men battling, big meat. I could see that. But I also think you got to find a spot for Jey Uso in Saudi Arabia. So I'm going to go with Oba to take it all. I think Oba, King of the Ring. The problem is if Oba's going to face Brock at SummerSlam, then he's not getting a title match. So do you go with Bron Breakker as King of the Ring? Do you go with Bron versus Seth Rollins in the final at King of the Ring? So, I don't know. We'll see what happens next week. Next week, we will actually have the semifinals done, the brackets sent. So let's see what the final four are next week, and we'll make a clear decision. But the only thing stopping me about Oba Femi is the fact that he's supposed to face Brock at SummerSlam. And do you have Brock Lesnar? Do you have Oba Femi lose King of the Ring in Saudi Arabia? 2 losses in less than a month and a half? I don't know if you do that. So it's going to be interesting to see who they go with next week. I could see Bron Breakker advancing. I don't know if Seth Rollins necessarily would get involved. Let me put it this way. Dom, Bron, Trick, and Damian Priest, I think, happens on Friday, right? So if someone gets involved on Friday, whatever that match is, that could carry over into Monday. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. So I don't think Brock Lesnar will cost Oba the match. I know Saudi Arabia would absolutely love the idea of having Brock in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I could actually see that. Props to that idea. To Cody, I absolutely could see that because Saudi Arabia will pay for Brock, and if Brock just has to go down it, you called me a coward, no problem. I just cost you your King of the Ring. Yeah, I could see that. You're not going to have King of the Ring determined by a disqualification, so I could see Oba Femi versus someone in the final in Saudi Arabia, and Brock shows up, F5s him again, and then causes Oba, and then that's it. You call me a coward, no problem. I just ruin your King of the Ring, and then that leads to the SummerSlam match. I could see that. I could absolutely see that. I like that idea the more I think about it, because Saudi Arabia is up Brock Lesnar's alley. So that is definitely a good idea. So let's see what the quarterfinals leave us next week, and I think we'll have a better understanding or an idea where we're going to go. But with that said, I am jetting. I will be back Wednesday for Wednesday Night Dynamite. Then Saturday we will be back with the History Show. Thursday I'll be live on Patreon for our weekly Patreon stream. Usually runs 2.5 to 3.5 hours long. And then Sunday we'll be right back with the sit down. So my friends, I want to thank you for spending some of your Monday night with me. Now, don't forget, again, next Monday, I will be here right after Raw. I expect it to be around 4:30 in the afternoon. And, we'll recap Raw. And, I thought about it honestly, like, hey, some people are probably going to be working still and maybe they can't appear. But the thing is, if I do it at 7 o'clock, I guarantee you're going to find a couple other people out there that are going to put it at 7 o'clock. Like some people strategically try to put their shows. It's been done for years with Kev and I. So it's hard for me to pick a time that is pretty much just for us. But I think, if we do it right after Raw, you do it at 8 o'clock, we'll see. We'll see. As of right now, I would say next week right after Raw. But I don't know. Maybe by the end of the week, I'll change my mind. But we will definitely be live next Monday for sure. And my schedule is a little easier next week, so I think Monday right after Raw is definitely doable. But you know what? We had a nice turnout tonight, so there's no reason why we can't do it at 8. We'll see what happens. But I'm out of here, everybody. Much love. Hope to see you on the other shows later on in the week, so be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.